Yo, yo, yo! What is up, everyone? This is video 1.2, part 1. Thank you for joining. Glad you're watching. Hope everyone's doing well. And let's get going, huh? Let's get after this. So, first, what we're going to be doing is we are going to be adding integers with different signs today. And when we are adding integers with different signs, one thing that's a key vocabulary term here, it's important for us to know, is the term additive inverse. Additive inverse. So what the additive inverse is the opposite of any number. Okay, so the additive inverse is the number that when I add to it, it's going to give me 0. So here's what I mean by that. If I have negative 5, the additive inverse of negative 5 is positive 5. The reason why is if I combine negative 5 and positive 5, these all cancel each other out to give me 0. Okay, so the additive inverse is the opposite of any number. So if I had positive 6, the additive inverse would be negative 6, because when I combine positive 6 with negative 6, they cancel each other out, which gives me 0. Now, when we are adding numbers with different signs, okay, we are going to model with counters first, and then we're also going to model on a number line, just like what we did when we were adding numbers with the same sign. So what we're going to do is we are going to model with counters, but now instead of doing it side by side, I'm going to model on top of one another. So here's what I mean by that. So here I'm modeling 3 plus negative 2. So to represent positive 3, I'm going to draw in 3 positive counters. So here's 1, 2, 3. There's my positive 3 right here. Now I'm combining that, I'm adding that with negative 2. So when I combine that with negative 2, I'm going to put the negative 2 right below. So my negative 2 is going to be right below. And that's going to be a negative and a negative. So I have 2 negatives. So negative 2, I have 2 negative counters. Positive 3, I have 3 positive counters. So here's why we did it on top of one another. And it makes a lot of sense after I show you what we're doing here. Is whenever I have positive 1 and negative 1, that is the additive inverse of each other. Okay? Because positive 1 and negative 1, they cancel each other out because they make a 0. Okay, whenever we have zeros in math, whenever we create zeros in math, it helps us cancel things out. So whenever I have a positive and a negative chip, a positive and negative cancels out to make 0, because this is positive 1 and negative 1. So what I did by lining it up, and I have 3 positives and 2 negatives, this positive 1 and this negative 1 cancels each other out, because positive 1 and negative 1 make 0. They cancel out. Positive 1 and negative 1 makes 0. It cancels out. So what I'm left with is just this last positive 1. So 3 plus negative 2 is equal to positive 1. And I don't have to write the positive sign, I just did here. So again, looking back here again. So let's kind of recap what we did here. I took my positive 3 and I represented it with counters, with chips. I took my negative 2 and I also represented that with counters. So what happens is whenever I have a positive 1 and I have a negative 1, positive and a negative cancels each other out, because when I combine positive 1 with negative 1, I do get 0. So by lining them above each other, I can line up my positives and my negatives together to see how many of them are going to cancel. Let's try another one here in case I got a little confusing. So now, there's the bell. Now I have the problem negative 6 plus 3. So I'm going to represent this with counters. I'm just going to take both of these values and I'm going to represent them with counters. So when I represent negative 6 with counters, that's 6 different negatives. So I have 6 negatives here. 4, 5, 6. So this is negative 6. Each one of these represents negative 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 negatives here. So right below that, I'll do it in a different color this time, I have my 3 positives, because I'm also going to combine these 6 negatives. I'm combining these with 3 positives. 1, 2, 3. Well, the thing is, I can't just say if I have 6 negatives and 3 positives that I have 9 negatives, because they're not the same sign. It doesn't work. I can't follow that same rule where I just add them together and then I keep the sign, because they don't have the same sign. These are different. So I don't have 9 negatives and I don't have 9 positives. Okay, what I have is I have 6 negatives and I have 3 positives. So when I add 6 negatives with 3 positives here, what's happening is I have all these, what we also call these 0 pairs. So this is also called a 0 pair, because what happens is when I have negative 1 and positive 1, they cancel out and make 0. -1 and +1 cancels out and makes 0. And then -1 and +1 again cancels out and makes 0. So these negatives and positives keep canceling each other out until I run out of something. I don't have any more positives to cancel out with these negatives. So what am I left with here? Well, I'm left with 3 negative chips. So my answer is -3. 6 negatives plus 3 positives gives me, leaves me with the remaining of 3 negatives. Okay? So it's lining them up and canceling out positives with negatives and seeing what we have left over. Try this one. Oh, I'm sorry. You can try this one with counter chips first. Okay, so just draw out your chips off to the side. Try it with the counters. See how you do. And then we'll also model it on a number line, and then you can see if you got it right with the counter chips. Okay. Now, where I'm going to model with a number line. I will show you with counter chips after I do it with the number line, but first, let's do it with the number line. So I have 4 plus -3. 4 plus -3. So I'm adding a positive with the negative, so I have numbers with different signs. So when I add a positive with the negative, I'm always on the number line, I'm always going to start with the first value, which is that +4. So here I go. I'm starting at +4. And we're going to follow the same rules we learned from lesson 1.1, where whenever I'm adding a negative number, I move left on my number line. So I'm adding -3, so I go left 3. 1, 2, 3. And I finish here at 1, so it's equal to +1. I'm all done. Okay. Now, had I done it with number chips, I would have had it with my counters. I would have had +4 to represent. And then I also would have had -3. So here's 1, 2, 3 negatives. Well, positive and negatives cancel out until I run out. I'm out of negatives. I'm left with 1 positive. My answer is +1. Let's look at another one. Oh, real quick, I got a quick math joke for you guys. Why is it sad that parallel lines have so much in common? So why is it so sad that parallel lines have so much in common? Because they will never meet. They'll never meet. So sad. Okay, moving on. We're going to model -7 plus 5 with a number line. So again, we always start with our first value here, which is at -7. So I'm going to start at -7. Now I'm adding a positive or a negative. Well, when I add a positive, I move right on my number line. And I move that many times. So I'm going to move positive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my final answer is -7 plus 5 is -2. You could have also used the counters. You would have had 7 negatives. 4, 5, 6, 7. You could have had 5 positives. 3, 4, 5. We can see how many are going to cancel out. We're left with 2 negatives left. Oh, look, I made a face. That's awesome. Look at that. Boom. Here's some hair for him. Okay. Last one. Try this one again. You can try this one on your own. You can pause it, see how you do. You might be able to see the answer right away, but just in case, I want you to model it anyways on a number line or with counters, your choice, and then you can see how you did. So 6 plus -6. -6 is the additive inverse of 6. These are the numbers that are opposite from each other, so right away we should automatically know that this equals 0. But if I modeled it on my number line, which is what we were supposed to do, I would have started at +6. I'm adding a negative, which means I move left on my number line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if I use my counters, I would have had 6 positives here. And then I also would have had 6 negatives. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so they all would have canceled, and I'm left with 0. So 3 ways to look at it. Okay, please remember to jot down things to remember. If you want to jot down talking about moving left on the number line or moving right. Maybe you could also, on the number line, move left on a number line. Move left on a number line when you are adding a negative. Move right when you're adding a positive. You also might want to jot down that a positive and negative cancels each other out because they equal 0. Anything along those lines. And if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask them at this point in time. Or write those down as well, and then you'll be able to bring those to class and ask them when you're here. Hopefully this helped. If you have any questions, email me. Let me know in Teams. Whether or not I hear from you or not, I'll see you guys hopefully soon. G out.